Hello. Welcome. Let's see how this goes. I was going to say this is computer, which is at least partly true. But this is Final Fantasy XIV. It's been a bit. Well, since a regular stream of this. But 7.1 came out at some point. And here's Sucra. She's still looking directly at you. But don't worry, she has moved from this spot at least once since that stream. So here we are. 7.1 released recently. 7.15 is releasing tomorrow or tonight, depending on how you look at it. And I guess I'm gonna do the main story of 7.1 finally. In addition to that, there's also the Allied Society quests added there. There's an epilogue to the Pandemonium questline, and there's part 1 of a raid series. All of which I will have to do eventually. I also just haven't streamed, like, in a little bit. So hopefully I can manage. I did abruptly feel more tired as soon as I started streaming, but, you know, we'll see what happens. Sucro is a warrior today, by the way. Her axe is very bright. Sometimes I forget how bright the laser axe is now. But yeah. We will be beginning with unlocking the Pelupelu Allied Society quests. So as to not immediately jump into the main story. And that should be here somewhere. I assume this is the main story. The Wandering Minstrel is here. And there's the Pelupelu. Let's just take the time to wander over their regular style. We're taking it easy today. Well, until I cry or whatever. I don't know what happens in the main story. By the way, a new Pulse album also released. Yeah, I guess I should mention that. Which I will probably have to bring up again later. But the bingo card... the tiny Sucro is above the bingo card. That's fine. As is the text. But the bingo card is a little bit updated. On account of a Pulse album released which had an electro swing remix of the Tuliolo theme in it. And also I never remembered to mark one of the lines, I guess. So, some things have happened. There aren't many spaces left. I wasn't entirely sure if this bingo card would be relevant for Point X, but for now it is. Maybe if I think of enough other things. I think I ran past it. Yeah. Whoop. A notably different color of clothing. They must be important. An intrepid new enterprise. Oho Kale. Maybe meeting with her won't be so easy after all. Mablu said she'd be around here somewhere, though. Hey, what's up? Whoa! Sucro the Adventurer? The mighty warrior who traveled the length and breadth of Tyrol, taking in its myriad sights, sounds, and smells, even those within the otherworldly dome? The savvy haggler who helped the Third Promise acquire a saddle with 10 pel in the thousands column, despite starting with a mere 100? Good. My inner abacus is ticking away, or clacking away. You're the missing piece I've been looking for. The missing piece of my brand new enterprise, that is. Questioning head tilt? Sorry about that. I got a little carried away. I'm just so happy to finally meet you. I'm Liplu, a merchant. Until recently, my business was bedclothes, all woven from the finest alpaca wool. My dear friend Mablu told me all about you. I hear you gave her the nudge she needed to embark upon her journey as a peddler. I can't begin to thank you enough. But I'll get straight to the point. I have a proposal for you today, Sucro. How would you like to become a special advisor for a trailblazing tourism venture? I call it the Tarali Travel Agency. Gasp. Of course you'll be compensated for your time. You'll also be the first in line for all kinds of treats and trinkets, not to mention a wealth of exciting experiences. You don't have to answer right away, but if any of this has roused your interest, please come and visit me at Okanu. Or in Okanu. We can go over the finer details there. I'll be waiting for you, along with the rest of my associates. Nod. Alrighty then. Business ventures. Jazz ambush. Not as startling anymore, but still funny. While we're over here, I also have a couple of additional mounts from old Savage content. Mostly, I think it's very funny that the Air Force is very small. And she's very, like, she's so scrunched into it. It's quite good. There are a couple other ones. Somewhere in here. There's an Omega. Oh, you go into the Omega when you... I didn't actually... That's really goofy as well. You just like zoop in there real quick, like whoop. That's very silly, actually. And there's also somewhere in here. Yeah, Alteroid. Flying snake. Yep. Oh, right. The Corn Servant also exists. I never did all the Corn Servant quests. I don't remember if we decided that that wasn't really worth showing on stream or not. We might have. Also, I would like to point out that in this tiny car, thanks to the addition of tilting to flying mounts and whatnot, the way that Sucro tilts to the side when turning in this funny airplane is very like kart racer. It's pretty good. Hello, welcome. I was just showing some old Savage mounts that I have now. I feel like you might appreciate the Omega one. This one's also pretty good. It's very funny how you zoop into the canopy immediately when you start flying. And out when you land. Ooh. But I love the Air Force and how small it is. It's very funny. She looks like a Mario Kart character turning in it. Anyway. We are doing the Pelupelu Society questline unlock. And then the MSQ. While I'm here, let's have Boaster move out of the way of the camera preemptively. Some sort of business venture awaits, evidently. Sucro stretch. Ah, there you are. Thank you for coming. Right, here goes. Ohokale! Welcome to Kozamaoka! Ohokale! You've mastered the Hanu Hanu greeting, but I wouldn't expect anything less from someone so well-traveled. My voice acting's all over the place, I gotta get used to it again. Allow me to introduce myself again. I'm Liplu, the founder of the Turali Travel Agency. With me are my brother Yubli and my Hanu Hanu associates. We'll be happy to explain the ins and outs of our budding enterprise. You were there for the Ascension ceremony, weren't you? God, you're right. That was the advertising. That was one of the advertising things prior to the release. I forgot about the Board of Turalism. By the way, there's a tiny Sucro on the screen if you didn't notice. I think this is important. She's right there. Important. Anyway. Dawn servant Wuklamat spoke of growing to love her people all the more as she got to know them better. Of how she wanted us to live with joy in our hearts and smiles on our faces. Well, those words certainly left their mark. The capital's residents are eager to learn about their fellow tour. What? Oh, right, the challenge. I forgot I had extended that. It still has no actual, result. But, whatever. Well, those words certainly left their mark. The capital's residents are eager to learn about their fellow Turali, who in turn yearn to foster understanding. You see it too, don't you? An unmistakable business opportunity. Well, that's precisely where the Turali Travel Agency comes in. We'll answer that burgeoning demand. Our goal is to help revitalize this community as it attempts to rebuild after the Great Storm. Promoting Kozamaoka as a tourist destination will provide a much-needed source of income for the region, and with it, all the benefits that follow. Of course, we wouldn't be having this conversation had we not consulted the Hanu beforehand. After much discussion, they kindly agreed to set aside a tract of land by Doc Poga for development, and would you believe it, the villagers are flocking to join our staff. As Liplu said, the people are eager to learn about their fellow Turali, and we Hanu are eager to share our culture with them as well. Much as when you helped us to revive Ihihana, we hope to welcome many outsiders into our home, that we may know one another better and enjoy each other's company. And what better way to do so than to support this tourism initiative? Nod. Of course, tourism is an industry new to Tyrol. This is unfamiliar territory in many respects, and people understandably have their concerns. But who better to assuage those concerns than someone who's roamed far and wide and met with countless Tyrali from all over the continent? Smile. Sucro is not really dressed appropriately for the weather, but that's fine. I can't imagine myself changing this outfit for a while, because it's too good. Anyway. I handled the managerial side of the enterprise. If you decide to join us, I'll be counting on your insights to help me solve the little problems we'll no doubt encounter along the way. Oh, they have names now. Zenuhanu, Zelihali, Ginuhanu, Okohali, nice to meet you. You're aware that Kozamauka was ravaged by a mighty storm, yes? By welcoming more travelers to our land, we stand to gain many new customers, not to mention the opportunity to work for the travel agency itself. In this way, we hope to raise the funds we need to rebuild and recover. I guess that's true. I'm not a climate expert. I'm not an outside expert. I acknowledge that nature exists, even though I do not often partake in it. This will be an excellent chance for the rest of Tyrol to get to know us. No matter how you look at it, we'd be fools not to cooperate with Pelupelu and her brother. The Pelupelu strive to spread happiness through trade. It's little wonder they find a warm welcome wherever they go. Their guiding principle has earned them a great deal of trust over the years. Mablu introduced Pelupelu to Elder Zanuhali. She would often visit our village to peddle her wares, and it was because of her that we saw fit to consider the proposal. When we first gathered to discuss the issue, Pelupelu painted a vivid picture of the impact her venture would have on the region, financial and otherwise. Everyone seems on board with this idea. The core of our business is providing accommodations and guided tours for the local area. As we speak, Wukevu is putting his shipwright skills to use, heading up construction for our base of operations by Dock Poga. Oh good, Wukevu is involved. That guy with his running joke. I say oh good in a way that sounds sarcastic, but isn't. From sourcing foodstuffs to souvenirs and everything in between, we're working hand in glove with the good people of Okanu to make sure this venture benefits everyone involved. Still, there are a few things I'm worried about. The guided tours, for example. Visitors will journey here after making a reservation at our office in Tuliolo, and we'll have to guarantee their safety every step of the way. After all, we can't expect our customers to handle themselves like you can. And that leads us neatly back to my proposition. So how about it? Can we count on your help as a special advisor while the travel agency finds its feet? Consider yourselves advised, specially, or once propositioned, who am I to refuse? Consider yourselves advised, specially. Ah, I knew we could count on you. Wonderful. Although I'm loath to put you to work straight away, I would seek your assistance. We guides have each devised a plan for our prospective tours based on our knowledge of our homeland, but we'd benefit greatly from the input of a worldly traveler like yourself. Honest opinions only. Pelupelu, perhaps you could accompany Sucro and appraise the tours as well. I'll stay behind and oversee construction with Wukevu. Nod. A fine idea. Guides, please wait in your respective tour locations. I will take Sucro to each of you in turn. I didn't know that tour guides needed guides. A tour guide is an untapped market. I mean, tour guides are an untapped market in this region already, so doubly so for a tour guide. When you're ready, just say the word. I'm as keen as the Hanu Hanu are to hear your thoughts. Cut to Sucro with a cartoon thought balloon that just says I'm a cat in it, I guess. All set? Now then, our 3 guides have planned 3 unique tours, so we will speak with them one at a time before proceeding to the next. We'll start by paying a visit to Genuhanu in the Fields of Gold, who I am told wishes to showcase local industry with a focus on the village and reed fields. Let's go. Time for my tiny funny car, which is a plane. The sort of mount where you expect to run into a colored balloon and pick up a missile power-up. There's something enchanting about the sight of all these reeds swaying in the wind, especially at night when you can see the fireflies dancing among them. I'm glad you're here. I almost couldn't bear the wait. Right, let me explain my concept for the tour. First and foremost, I see this as a chance for our customers to understand Wihanu, and where better to learn than right here among our reed fields. After all, reeds are at the very heart of our culture. Just cast your gaze across these lush fields and you'll get a sense of what defines us. But that's enough about my thoughts. What do you think? I should like to believe this is a place those not of the Hanu can also appreciate, but... Visitors will take a keen interest in the reed fields. Perhaps reeds shouldn't be the sole focus, or they'll be out of harm's reach at the very least. Well, I mean, I think the reeds are very culturally relevant. Genuhanu has a great point here. And I don't think Genuhanu was really implying that they would be the only focus, but perhaps this... It probably shouldn't be the only thing in the tour. The tour should absolutely involve the reeds, but as Sucro suggests, I think visitors will want to learn about other aspects of Hanu Hanu culture too. Perhaps giving them a tour of local settlements will serve as a worthy introduction to your traditions. Yes, I think the plan is coming along nicely. Summarize, if we begin by guiding guests around the villages, they'll see how reeds are so tightly interwoven with Hanu Hanu culture. That way, they'll appreciate the precious resource growing in your paddies all the more. I was so excited about showing visitors our fields, I hadn't considered that they might like to learn about the normal everyday lives of Wihanu too. I appreciate the suggestion. Consider also having a range of handicrafts on offer that visitors might purchase if so inclined. Perhaps a mix of practical household items and more esoteric trinkets, charms, and the like. Alright, let's head for Breath Between next. Zelihali has proposed a walking tour of the river and ought to be waiting for us there. I feel like Liplu's got this figured out already. I don't know how much Sucro's really contributing. A tour that takes in the villages and the fields. The waters here are dazzlingly clear, don't you think? And filled with a bounty of fish besides. Of course, the current is awfully strong as well. We must take care that no guests fall in, lest they be swept away in an instant. I completely lost track of time. My attention was whisked away by the endless waters of Kuushage. I don't remember how to say that one. If you didn't already know, Kuushage means big tongue in our language. If you aren't careful, you might find yourself slurped up and taken off by the current. You know, I bet insights into the language like that would prove a hit with visitors. I'm glad you think so, but I'm still a little unsure of my plan. The idea is to guide guests along the river, explaining the language and local history as I go. But is that really enough entertainment? Sucro would think a leisurely educational stroll sounds delightful. But I feel like the middle option is the cautious one that I'm gonna stick with what Sucro would say. Sucro loves this. Hearing that from someone so well-traveled is a relief. I appreciate your advice. Whatever form the tour takes, I want to make sure our guests leave completely satisfied. I'll be sure to confer with Pelupelu as I hammer out the details. It's time we went to see Zenuhanu. Well, I've been pronouncing this with a Z sound instead of a sh. I think I forgot that this language probably doesn't do X as sh, but I'm not sure. He's proposed a magical spelunking tour in which visitors can marvel at the natural beauty of the world beneath our feet. To Cave Kikitola. I don't think, like, linguistically, the X as a sh type of sound is super common. It's so exciting thinking of ways to entertain our future visitors. I believe this cave had danger in it, if I remember correctly. The soft green light reflecting off the rocks, the cool, crisp air, the tinkling of the flowing water. I feel as though I'm in the presence of the divine. There you are. I was starting to feel lonesome waiting for you to arrive. Let's get straight to it, shall we? Cave Kikitola is the source of many minerals and medicinal ingredients. For generations, it's been held as a sacred site of healing. It has as much danger in it as the rest of the map. I guess that's true, but I feel like there were specifically encounters in the cave as part of the plot. I'm sure visitors will be enamored with the cave's natural beauty, but the route here from the village is long and arduous, and the interior is rather dark. I fear it might not be a suitable reward for the challenge of simply getting here. While the cave is very important, visitors could try their hand at collecting medicines and minerals, and I'm more concerned about all the fiends nearby. I mean, this is the worry that I was expressing. But I do think the cave is important. I think customers will appreciate visiting a place that holds such spiritual significance for the Hanu. Zenuhanu mentioned that the Hanu come here to gather minerals and medicines. That sounds like it could make for an enjoyable activity for visitors to take part in. Imagine if they could have their findings made into souvenirs. The possibilities are endless. But as he said, the cave is somewhat remote. We can't discount the possibility of tour groups running afoul of fiends on the way here. Perhaps we'd be better off reserving this course for more seasoned travelers. I must say, the two of you are full of fine ideas. I'm starting to get excited. Just give me a little longer and I'll have my plan ready. Well, with that, you've heard all three proposals from our guides. I'm sure you're tired after all that traipsing around, but let's head back to Okanu, shall we? Again, I feel like Sucro didn't contribute a lot to this, but a special tour for seasoned travelers. She mostly just said, this all seems like a great idea, but don't focus only on one aspect of the place. And then Lipley filled in all of the other blanks. Sorry to have taken up so much of your time, but you helped address the guide's worries and brought some excellent suggestions to the table. Well, just kind of like one, but you know. While we were out there, a question I've been pondering came to mind. What exactly is it that we're selling with the Turali Travel Agency? It's not as simple as peddling produce or providing a service. If we're unsure, we'll have a hard time enticing customers. It's the experience, it's the knowledge. For the longest time, I couldn't pinpoint the answer, but hearing those proposals made it crystal clear. We're in the business of ephemeral experiences. It is our responsibility to curate every moment of a visitor's stay and ensure they leave with wonderful memories that last a lifetime. That way our customers will be sure to fall in love with Kozamauka and its people. That is more or less what I said. God, the jingling and register sounds here. I can practically hear my inner abacus clacking away. Provided we hold fast to our principles and remember that we're here to serve our customers above all else, I'm confident they'll have no qualms about parting with their hard-earned pal. The Turali Travel Agency will be synonymous with experiences both exceptional and unforgettable. I'll have to drive that message home when I promote our enterprise in the capital. Then there's the matter of making sure the benefits outweigh the burdens for the Hanu. There's so much to do. I can see where this quest line will be going, because the agency will have to expand into other regions and stuff. So a relatively lighthearted, for some reason combat-oriented society questline. But before all that, how about we take a look at our soon-to-be-built base of operations near Dokpoga? Knowing my brother and Wokevu, I dare say they've made remarkable progress already. Nod. Presumably the combat will be like, there's a giant monster in the direct path of the tour group. Go hit it with an axe or whatever. And such similar tasks. I say, like, relatively lighthearted as if the previous combat thing wasn't funny racing with, like, a relatively low-stakes conflict in it already. Apparently they're ready to start construction. The blueprints have been finalized and all the materials are to hand. Once the work is finished, then the countdown really begins. Here's hoping for satisfied customers and, more importantly, happiness for all involved, be they Hanu, Pelu, or adventurer extraordinaire. No, the extraordinaire stuff happens tomorrow, in terms of the patch schedule. It's so wonderful to have you on board. Let's work together and make this a stunning success. Now, with the Endwalker stuff, I was able to, like, provide updates on the society quests as I unlock the next thing, but I don't know if there's going to be enough Dawntrail to, like, do that on a reasonable schedule, but I might, I don't know. What do you say we get this thing built? I forgot the voice I did for this guy. Probably his actual voice, because he is voiced, but I forget what it is. And so they did! So I might just not worry about, like, showing all of the society stuff. Basically. Not too much, anyway. Seems like a good start. With construction work on the Turali Travel Agency complete, Liplu and her associates have their eyes set on establishing Kozamauka as a top tourist destination. Yet a host of challenges remain before their goals can be realized. As special advisor, it is your duty to offer support and guidance as they embark on this exciting new enterprise. Society quests unlocked. Also, you have the emote. It's funny that it takes a bit to give you this emote, and it's not just part of the story. Oh, the theme here is nice. Oh, right. In addition to that emote, they did add another new emote. I can now water things. Hooray. Where is it? There it is. Shame it doesn't make like the percussion noises, but I'll accept it. Probably can't purchase much. Yep. It is nice that you get the emote immediately. Look at my terrible inventory. It's full of random nonsense food I'll never use. I don't even remember why at this point. Hooray. Also materia 11? I think 12 is the current most relevant one. It's been a bit. Gear isn't entirely up to date or anything either. But it'll do. It's good enough. At least for now. I like the song here. Oh yeah, right. The wings you can get for stuff as well. Also the monocycle. People all around this place have done high-level content that I will not be doing. Anyway, I guess with that, we're going to the main story. Yeah, I haven't seen like the Sphene EX wings in the context of the game itself, but they didn't really look like I was expecting them to, or particularly impressive or anything. What's this? An otherworldly encounter. Is that... Right, that's the Alliance raid. That'll be for later. Oh, and I mentioned this earlier too. The Pulse album released, and the remix of this particular song is in fact electro swing. So for the purposes of my bingo card, I've decided to count that, which means there are very few spaces left. I might have to make another bingo card eventually, but I don't have any ideas for it. So... Anyway... I guess here we go with the main story. Finally. Oh, right, the Wandering Minstrel is that one. I'll have to pick that up at some point. Hey, what's up? A royal invitation. Ah, it is a pleasure as always, Sucro. Have you been able to relax lately? Yeah, Sucro was asleep for like a few months or something, probably, I don't know. Thumbs up! Wonderful. As busy as you've been with the rite of succession among other things, you deserve an opportunity to experience Tuliolo at a more leisurely pace. Sampling the tacos of Zabalyatie is one such way to do so. They're made the traditional way and laden with fillings. and are absolutely sublime. If you have an empty stomach, the owner, Brook Ebu, will look after you. Are you being paid to advertise this? Was I just subjected to an ad for these tacos, or was that coincidental? Is that person... Yep, that sure is Eris Gainsborough. I could tell from a distance that the character was dressed as Eris, or Aerith, as it were. Sometimes you just see Aerith running around. Well, if it isn't Sucro, alone today, are you? I see, I see. You have a hankering for tacos, then they're on the house. Consider it a token of gratitude for your help tracking down those treasures. Go ahead and find a table. I'll bring you your meal as soon as it's ready. Wait a minute. Hey, isn't there also the final role quest epilogue thing? I don't have where that is in my notes. Is that not in the game yet? Is that soon? I don't actually know. But I forgot to think about that until just now. Not in the game yet. Got it. The Warrior of Light told to go hang out and look for adventure hooks is funny, yeah. Go ahead and find a table. I'll bring you your meal as soon as it's ready. How will this taco time be interrupted this time? Perhaps it will not. You still love tacos, I hope? Heh, you ate so many when you turned 5, you could barely move afterwards. Remember that? Oomst? No, not really. That was 30 years ago for me. Oh. Taco time interrupted by immediate time travel consequences. Time travel taco consequences. Right, sorry, it's still strange for me too. Just the other day you were a little boy clinging to your mother's skirt as you set off for Yasolani. Now you're a man grown with a face full of hair. Even so, I knew you were my son the instant I saw you. We're still family, and you can always rely on me. Relying, that feels like the only thing I'm doing right now. On you and everyone else. I can't even start a fire without assistance at my new job. Back in Alexandria, we had electro. If I needed fire, all I had to do was press a button. Everything was at our fingertips. But here I'm helpless, a culinarian who can't even light the stove. The way the others in the kitchen stared at me, gods, I've never felt so embarrassed. That's true. The regulator is either gone or was never there. Didn't think about that. I'm sorry to hear that. I'd been told the tales, but it seems life is really different within the dome. My wife and children, I was thinking I'd have them join me once things had settled, but at this rate... I say you send for them. If they're your family, then they're mine too. I'll do whatever is necessary to make it work. Gasp. Oh, Wuklamat is here. I didn't mean to overhear, but it seems you're having trouble readjusting to life in Tuliolo. Vau Wuklamat? 8 folk like yourself, we've established a support group at the Wing of Reflection. There you can learn the skills you need to live outside the dome. It isn't easy being back, I know, but I'm hopeful that they can make things easier. That's exactly what I need. I'll definitely seek this group out, and I'll bring my family with me, thank you. look who it is! I was just about to go and find you, Sucro. Luke Lamont as a Microsoft Office assistant is a funny thought. I had to take a drink of water. You don't mind the company, I hope? I could use a bite to eat myself. Nod. Taco sound effects. That sounded a lot crunchier than the shell of the taco looked. Ah, the tacos here never disappoint. Nod. So what have you been up to lately? I've been exploring Tyrol with my trusty alpaca. I've been catching up on sleep. I've been helping out around Wachumeki Meki. I've been working to recover some stolen artifacts. I've been making a name for myself at the Arcadian. There's enough room for like an extra answer here, but I don't know if there is one. Did you do everything in Dawntrail? Yes? No? I feel like the one of this that... I guess the artifacts was the thing I did most recently, technically. I've been working to recover some artifacts. I've been reviewing reports from the Landsguard. Given my responsibilities, I'm not in a position to chase criminals abroad, so I needed someone else to take care of the matter. I'm glad that someone is you. As for myself, I've been kept busy with duties at the palace. But whenever I find a moment, I like to walk the streets and talk to the people. That way I can better understand the problems that they have and share them with Kona to figure out solutions. I was on one such walk just now, and as I mentioned, I was hoping to find you. Questioning head tilt 2. 2 of those so far. Kona and I have something we want to discuss with you as Dawn Servant. Do you have the time to come to the palace? Nod. I haven't been counting nods. Excuse me for coughing. Great, I'll go on ahead. Please come and join us once you're finished here. Sucro has canonically eaten at least 3 tacos in her life. Keeping track of various counters. Number of questioning head tilts. Number of tacos eaten. All the vital statistics. Right, it's up here. Right. It's been a while since I really, like, played this game in general. I gotta remember how to play it and how to navigate it. Yeah, it's good. I like how they did the whole Dawn Servant thing. I like that both of them get to be Dawn Servant. It seems Kona's gone somewhere. Sorry. Mistress Sucro, it is always an honor. While Kona has stepped away to attend to a pressing matter, but he should join you within before long. I don't know why everyone looks so surprised at the door opening and Sucro being here. What, no voice acting for this? Oh, you're all here too. Falcona summoned us, though if truth be told, Alphino and I have been seeing him quite regularly of late. I guess it's probably pretty loud, that's true. He asked us to share our knowledge of Hunnish culture, you see, in hopes of further strengthening your alliance. We were, of course, happy to oblige him. Kryl and I were likewise summoned. Otherwise, we've been carrying on with our work, compiling information on the Golden City. My grandfather embarked on his investigation 20 years ago. With our report, we shall finish what he started. Sucro's here too. Lest you wonder, Thancred and Urianger have left to resume their tour of Tyrol. Yeah, that's true. We did do that. Important facts to remember. Ishtola, meanwhile, is back to researching cross-rift travel. She was here just a few days ago to get Kona's permission to investigate living memory. By the way, she mentioned wanting to take a look at the key in your keeping at some point. Nod. Slowly. If the look she had in her eyes was any indication, I suggest you brace yourself for when she comes calling. You're like to be stuck with her for a while. Blank expression. As for Estinian, we know neither where he is nor what he's doing. Some things never change. My apologies for the delay. Think nothing of it. We took advantage of the time to catch up. So, what can we do for you? Hopefully present company is enough for whatever it is you need. Nod. Glasses emote. The matter for which I have summoned you pertains to Alexandria. A state funeral will soon be held in Solution 9 to mourn the passing of Queen Sphene. King Gululja and his administration have invited us to attend. That makes sense. While certain issues remain unresolved between our nations, such as the treatment of Yassulani, I see no reason not to attend. For generations, the Alexandrians lived without even the awareness of death. I wouldn't have expected them to have funeral rites still. You know what, actually, that's a good point. Apparently, the members of Oblivion unearthed records of ceremonies that were conducted in the Alexandria of old. It was they who put forth the proposal that the Queen be thus honored. Leave it to that lot to think of such things. The people of Alexandria no longer forget the departed. They're being confronted with the idea of death for the first time. I suspect our friends wanted to do something for them. Nod. Though Sphene was but a simulacrum, she was nonetheless a pillar for her people. The pain of her passing must run deep. Indeed, the funeral will give Alexandrians the chance to come together to express their grief, that they might overcome it. I wasn't sure at first, but I've decided to go. Not only to be there for Gululja, but to put this chapter behind us. That I requested your presence was none other than to see if you wished to attend the funeral. You knew Sphene well, after all. In a manner of speaking, that's true. I think I should go too. Sometimes I wonder if there wasn't another way, or that would be inappropriate. I think this is probably accurate. Sometimes I wonder if there wasn't another way. You and me both, but we made our choices and are responsible for what comes of them. As vow, I'll attend the funeral in an official capacity. I owe it to the Alexandrian people to bear witness to their grief. I'd like it if you could be there to watch over everything, like you did all through the Rite of Succession. Not. I feel like the rest of us should go too. Regardless of the reason, the fact remains that we deprived Alexandria of a beloved ruler, and if there's a dungeon, we need to be able to fill every role in the party. It's only right that we remember who Sphene was, to her people and to others, so let us stand with you. Then it's decided. Let's head to Solution 9 and look for Golozha in the back room. Honestly, I have to wonder how it is for the writers to be like, we have to make the characters' motivations line up with the mechanics of the game so that enough of them are present if necessary. Crossroads. I guess it's a reasonable place to meet up. It's probably not his seat of power, as it were. Though I too would ideally attend the funeral, given the circumstances, I think it's best that Lamachi represents us. And I guess, like, yeah, there wasn't really a throne or anything. But maybe we're meeting up there because the Resistance is responsible for the idea of the funeral? Besides, I need to be on hand to oversee the city's repairs, which is taking longer than expected. When that work is complete, we will finally look into installing new thrones. But to have Father's throne here still, it makes me feel he is close by. I'm quite happy for it to remain for a while. I honestly hadn't considered the need for them to install new thrones, and that's honestly kind of funny. Imagine if they just both sat on the same one. It's like a bench, basically. They both fit. Doesn't look like a particularly comfortable throne for anyone, but you know. But yeah, I wonder how it is for the writers to like I said, make the character motivations line up with they have to be present and whatnot. I guess it's not that difficult because all of the characters have pretty consistent reasons for being in places and whatnot. I think one of the changes that they made at some point was that you teleport close enough to this aetherite to be able to use it easier. That probably happened, like, in the patch that introduced the, Arcadian or something. You heading to the back room? Indeed. Glad to see the invitation reached you. As you may have heard, we were able to find data on forgotten funeral customs amidst old records. Don't remember what Shale sounded like. It appears to have been preserved by those who rued the loss of culture due to the proliferation of regulators. We're grateful for their foresight. How's everyone else doing in here? It's good of you to come. We're expecting a large attendance for the funeral. Venue isn't like to hold everyone at once. But the altar will remain for those who couldn't be present during the ceremony. We ourselves plan to go and pay our respects afterwards. How about you, Ginolt? Hey, you ever heard of the Rodina Consortium? Absolutely can't stand that lot, let me tell you. That's why I gave the Nexus Arcade a wide berth. Even the residential district's too close for me liking, so I just crash here. Sure, that'll be relevant at some point. Not used to doing scratchy voices again. Ah, you came for the funeral. Of course. I'm the only one who'll officially take part, though. The others will watch over the proceedings. So how have you been? It's been a while since my last visit. I'm good. Shale is always teaching me new things. I don't remember Gul'Ja's voice that well either. Recently, I've learned about Everkeep's systems and the mechanical soldiers. It's knowledge I'll need to use my authority properly. Studious as always, I see. By way of a treat, I've brought you gâteau au chocolat. It's a kind of cake. I think you'll like it. Thank you, Lamachi, and thank you for coming. I've never been to a funeral before, so I feel less nervous having you here. Out of curiosity, what's the custom in Alexandria? In our world, it's common to offer flowers to the departed. It's much the same here, according to the records. Flowers will be distributed to all attendees. Considering that all the worlds used to be one, the practice of offering flowers may well share the same ancient origin. Fascinating, wouldn't you say? Nod. God, I guess she did do that, kinda. Oh yeah, the Unending Codex. I always forget that exists. It's a relief to see that Gul'Ja is doing well. He's been through too much for one so young. From a group that plotted to undermine a tyrant king from the shadows to one that aids their fellow citizens in the open, Oblivion has come a long way. For the people to take it on themselves to organize and hold the funeral, it speaks to their enduring love for Sphene. Although I've been in the back room before, there was no time to see the sights. I should like to take a closer look at the equipment. While we proposed the funeral, the royal administration took on the brunt of the planning. One of their number can better explain what the ceremony will entail. Always said he didn't want a somber funeral, so we celebrated his life together with our victory. I'm sure he would have loved it. I'd like to think he was watching us from the world beyond, filling his cup every time we filled our own. The flowers are being handed out at Praxis Park. I'm thinking of heading over there now. We'll join you. There's a man I would like to speak with, Gossan. He was apparently Sphene's aide, and the one who sent us the invitation. Come on, let's go. Everyone nodding. Yeah, it makes more sense if they're not the secret resistance anymore. They wouldn't really need to be, so... Think about Gimme Cat. Or Gimme Bat, in this case, I think. You know, this isn't much of a park, really, now that I think about it. Here he is, Gossan. Muklamat's attendance will surely help strengthen relations between the two nations. I get the strong impression that both Tuliolo and Alexandria wish to put this tragic past behind them. It makes sense that Sphene had loyal aides such as Gossin, given how much time she dedicated to walking among her people. That makes sense. While it appears souls are still being issued, supply must be limited now that they're no longer being harvested. The grim faces in the queue tell the tale. Judging from all the activity, I presume the funeral will be held here. I see we're just immediately jumping into addressing all of the lingering issues. At least beginning to. All correspondence was being handled by the Wing of Reflection, so this is my first time speaking with Gossin. Something is going to happen to Alexandria. The Soul Standard. Why, I'm Val Wuklamat of Tuliolo. Thank you for extending us an invitation to Queen Sphene's funeral. We are honored, truly. I had seen you before from a distance, but never had the pleasure. I am Gossin, former chief aide to the Queen. Since her passing, I have been responsible for administering affairs of state. Can we get our flowers here? Nod. Yes, Your Majesty. The flowers are being handed out at the counter yonder, alongside the regulators. What? We need to wear regulators for the funeral? Rest assured they are not a requirement. We are aware your people do not use them. You see, people in the Alexandria of old wore tokens of mourning upon their persons when attending funerals. As such tokens were black, it was suggested that we might wear regulators painted the same color. Yet, we've yet to produce enough for everyone, but we're distributing them as we are able. I see. Yet, regulator or no, the important thing is that we remember Queen Sphene. Remember her and her kindness as you make an offering of your flower. I will. The proceedings will soon begin in this plaza. Please take your place once you have your flower. They delivered this invite like right before the funeral was going to happen, I guess. That's her, that's Sphene. Wow. I think it's funny how the NPCs in the block that we are standing in, or not all of us, but that like Wuklamat was standing in, were relatively more distinct from one another. So that when the camera focuses on that group, you don't notice as much that there's a lot of similar looking people.
Although we are gathered here for the same reason, we hail from different lands. Some were born and raised in the Alexandria of old.
the aura of budget.
From Tuliolal.
Also, the etherite next to the picture of Sphene even has flowers on it.
It was from this union of diverse peoples that a new Alexandria was born. The only home that our younger generation knows. How did we overcome the barriers between us? What moved us to join hands in common purpose beneath crackling skies? You know the answer. We survived. We thrived because Queen Sphene brought us together.
Eye narrowing. Remembering Sphene's favorite emote. remembering Sphene being mad.
Inspired and encouraged by her boundless kindness, we strove to be better, for ourselves as well as those around us.
I'm wondering if this funeral is going to be interrupted or attacked or something, somehow. Like, that just feels like the most obvious type of thing that could happen to me. I can't help but think about it.
And in Her Majesty's absence, there is a sadness beyond words. Yet we must. We will remember her. Remember all the good that she has done for us. So let us pray, as the people of the Old Kingdom once did, for the peaceful repose of the departed.
Okay, they're not shying away too much from showing the crowd of, like, the same few models.
And let us keep our beloved Queen forever in our hearts, that her memory might guide us unto the morrow.
Like, they're not shying away from it at all, I suppose.
Would that I could find solace in my own words.
Pay respects emote. Forever funnier than it should be.
Was Queen Sphene taken to the cloud?
She must have been. To still remember her is strange, isn't it, darling?
I miss her. She would always cheer me up when I was down. But even though I remember her, I'll never see her again. That doesn't make sense.
It seems that's what it means to die, I'm afraid.
But what will happen to us? Are we just going to be sad forever?
I think that line is in the trailer. I did see the trailer for the patch, but yeah, this kid trying to understand is kind of a
What will
lot.
happen indeed? Everything that we have, we owe to Queen Sphene. How are we to go on without her?
I still remember Her Majesty so clearly.
I probably shouldn't have seen the
If
trailer.
only I didn't, I might feel better about the future of our realm.
Perhaps we should also consider moving to Tuliolo. The journey won't be easy, but it'd be better than staying here in uncertainty.
Wouldn't you also be uncertain there? Maybe?
In times like these, I take comfort in the beliefs of a Turali people called the Yokui. To them, death isn't the end. So long as we're remembered, we never truly die. It could be the same for Queen Sphene, you know? If you keep her alive in your hearts, she'll always be with you.
But we still won't be able to see her, right? I don't want to think about that. I wish I could just forget instead of having to feel like this.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to impose. Please, mourn your queen however you see fit.
She's doing her best.
As expected, they struggle to come to terms with their loss. I hope they can find a way to move forward.
It's not only grief that weighs on them, but worry for the future. Bereft of their queen, how will they proceed?
True. But with that at least, we're not powerless to help. What is it, Guloja?
I was wondering, is it better to remember or forget someone when they're dead?
That's a heck of a question, 10 years old child.
I remember my father, and every time I think of him, it hurts. It's the same with Queen Sphene. Knowing that she's gone makes me feel sad. But it's different with my mother. I never knew her, so I don't feel as bad. I want to remember my father, but maybe I'd be better off forgetting him.
Guloja.
Why don't we continue this somewhere else?
I forgot how weird it was for Sucro to be one of the relatively taller people in this group. We're focusing on the regulator. Okay. I just keep expecting something really terrible to happen abruptly. Instead, we're doing a more somber type of thing so far. Seeing that child reminded me of myself. How hard it was for me to accept that grandfather was gone. That sadness is what gave me the strength to come this far, and I would never choose to forget it. Never. I hope the altar can provide comfort to those who need it. This seems a good place to continue our conversation. Simply leaving Alexandria won't solve all their problems, I fear. The problem runs deeper than that. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have brought that up. Hey, Gululcha? Do you really know nothing at all about your mother? Shaking head. Shale searched the system for information on residents, but the only Mamulja she found listed were my father and me. Even as she died and was erased from people's memories, she should have been there, but she wasn't. Well, that you're here means she was here too, inside the dome. There can't be any other way about it. Perhaps we should try looking again, or do you want to know your mother? Do you want to know her? I think so. Even if it makes me feel sad, I want to know her. So I want to try looking again. And if I don't find anything this time, I'll give up. I see. Well, if that's what you want. Then I'll help you. I'd like to help as well, and I believe I speak for the others too. Everyone nodding. But I can't bother you with this. You already came for the funeral. We came here not only for the funeral, but to see whether all was well in Alexandria. We're not about to leave just yet. Besides, in seeking to learn about your mother, we're bound to learn about your father as well. By retracing the steps of this man who kept his own counsel, we may gain knowledge that can serve the people of Alexandria. Corgi barking in the background. Alright, thank you everyone. Nod. I am once again stating that they should figure out how to not use the quest complete jingle for every quest that happens. At this time, I will take the opportunity to be right back. Hello. Thank you for petting Calico while I was gone. I am really not used to, like, reading dialogue and juggling voices for the dialogue due to recent not being able to stream much. So I honestly don't know if I'll make it through the entirety of the MSQ today. But we'll see. If no records remain of Galulja's mother, then where do we begin our search? I understand all too well Galulja's desire. For the longest time I found my own father's actions inexplicable. If this is what Galulja wants, then I'll help him however I can. After all, we're family. I can very much relate to his feelings. I pray Galulja finds what he seeks. We might learn more about my father, too. I hadn't thought of that. I feel like I'm going a little bit lighter on the voices and stuff. Maybe that's a compromise. I was wondering how we were going to get to the dungeon. Assuming neither memories nor records of Galulja's mother remain, we must cast a wide as net as possible. I suggest we split into groups. Sucro, if you can make inquiries outside in the outskirts, the rest of us will do the same in Solution 9. The two groups. One group, Sucro. The other group, everybody else. You know what? I guess that's fair. Nod. Okay, they did split into two individual groups within Solution 9. So that's also fair in that regard. He does, that's true. It's just funny. Sucro is really good at knowing where the quest markers are. I forgot about the forecast terminals and the funny bird on them. Sorry, but I've never heard of a Mamulja woman living in these parts, much less one connected to Zeralja. You might have better luck talking to the people over at a Tonawatan settlement to the north of Everkeep, in a place called Uayawata. A resilient son won their loyalty when he saved them from some crisis or another, so the story goes. If I remember correctly, their chief's name was Kaniloka. Learning. Taking notes. I said Sucro was really good at knowing where the quest markers are, and now there aren't very specific ones for this. There we go. You're looking for a Mamulja woman? Oh, Galulja's mother. I can't help you there, I'm afraid. I only know a little about Zeralja, and then only what my father told me. He said that before the dome cut us off from the outside world, a Tural Vidral had appeared and was terrorizing the region. In response, Zeralja assembled a party of warriors, and with them confronted and felled the beast. It was interesting to hear of the king's feat in the past. What a battle it must have been between the king's men and the Tural Vidral, and all without regulators, too. I only talked to the first guy once. Wherever they were. Not a major deal, I suppose. A Mamulja woman? Their people have never been a common sight around here. Why, the last time I saw one would have been before the dome came down over our heads. She was among an entourage of Landsguard that was dispatched here. I assumed they all returned to Tuliolo after their mission. But if any remained, I suppose they could have been trapped in here with the rest of us. I hadn't seen the Mamulja woman or any of the other Landsguard since then, but I suppose it's possible some of them were trapped in here with the rest of us. Chill, I need you to input these notes into your magical computer and tell me what that means. Yeah, you teleport right next to the ether right now, when you didn't before. Isn't it kind of suspicious for, like, there to be a bouncer for a door in the back of a bar, now that I think about it? Like, wouldn't people just wonder what they were guarding, or is it assumed that they're on the lookout at, like, towards the front door and their placement in the back is irrelevant? I mean, it's not relevant anymore because they're not a secret rebel organization at this point, but still. While I failed to learn anything directly related to Galulja's mother, I did find information which may shed some light upon Zeralja. That's true. There could be a variety of other explanations. Lamachi didn't seem to have much luck. How did you fare? I'm sorry, but I couldn't find out anything useful. None of the people I questioned had heard of a Mamulja woman before. Zeralja rarely made public appearances, so the people had no idea how he spent most of his time. Yet I believe therein lies the key to the answers we seek. Solution 9 is vast indeed. Even with the teleporters, we could cover but a small portion of it. Ah, you're back too. I told Shale all about your search. Galulja has told me all. We've previously tried to track down records of his mother, but came up empty-handed. With everyone's help, hopefully we can get somewhere this time. Ah, so you spoke with quite a few different people as well. Let's combine all of our findings and see what conclusions we might draw. So, Zeralja brought a retinue of Landsguard to Yassulani, among whom was a female Mamulja. His mission was to rid the region of a Tural withdrawal, and I believe it's safe to say that that was the crisis in Ueyawata he resolved. If some of his troops stuck around for a time, perhaps to assist the villagers with recovery efforts, then they could have indeed gotten trapped in the dome. We also heard stories about the settlement in Ueyawata. People lived there until nearly a decade ago, and Zeralja made regular visits. If he required secrecy, a location home to his most loyal followers would be ideal, and if this Mamulja woman had remained there, they would have had occasion to come into contact. Group nod. I see, but what could Zeralja have been doing in that village? I think we can answer that question. In order to retrace Zeralja's steps, Raha and I spoke with a researcher who worked at Orogenics. He said that, approximately 20 years ago, a number of his colleagues were transferred to a research facility outside Everkeep, per the King's direct order. This is the first I've heard of such a facility. Only Vanguard was believed to have been under the King's jurisdiction. It was apparently being used to develop a new kind of weapon, but I'm afraid that was all we could learn. It's plenty to go on. Even if the work there was classified, any materials and equipment needed would have been manufactured within Everkeep. So if we look into transportation records... There it is. The routes are full of detours and attempts at obfuscation, but large deliveries were being made to Ueyawata. Far too large for a mere village. There hasn't been any activity for years, though. It's likely the facility has been decommissioned. Do you think that's where my mother was? We can't say for certain just yet, but I reckon there's a good chance. This is amazing! Even though no one remembers her, you managed to figure all of this out. Each piece of the puzzle may reveal little on its own, but when we put several together, a picture begins to form. And even should memories fade, footprints remain to mark the path of those who walked before. A lesson I learned in another life. So we'll be investigating this secret facility in Ueyawata then. And this time I want you to come along, Gulja. He's so happy. Everyone nodding. Ueyawata is on the other side of the lake. To get there, you'll need to take a hover cargo from the drift downs. Alright, thank you, Shale. Nod. Make your way to the drift downs when you're ready. Calusa will have a hover cargo ready for you. Alright then. Pretty sure this is the dungeon. I think it's like Ueyawata Field Station. They do reveal a fair amount of things prior to a patch. I guess it's right next to the Orogenics dungeon as well, where we're going. This plane is very silly. Weapons developed in secret with the aid of devoted followers. Nothing good will have come of this. The settlement in the outskirts, that was originally Tonawatan as well, yes? I wonder if Ueyawata is similar to it. Someone would have noticed if Zeralja traveled from the Drift Downs. I expect he utilized a flying vehicle. While the researcher we spoke with remembered that he had colleagues, he couldn't recall details about any specific individuals. Not their names, nor what they were like. Well, that implies a lot of things. I'll remain nearby after dropping you off. Just let me know when you're ready to head back. We've seen how much has changed for the part of Yassilani that's on this side of the dome. I wonder what it's like on the other. So the hover cargo will take us across the lake. I've never been over there before. It's still inside the dome, so I don't expect it'll be too different from here. We'll likely encounter dangerous beasts, so the rest of us will go first. You follow when it's safe to do so, alright? Alright, Be careful, everyone. And there it is. I have a hunch that we'll encounter at least 3 especially dangerous beasts. If the facility was used to research new weaponry, then it will have had tight security. Even if it's been closed down, let us proceed with caution. I can't help but be reminded of our foray into orogenics and of Kafkiwa. Don't worry about me. I'm good at hiding from beasts. I promised to look after Golulja, but I've hardly spent any time with him. I'm going to make up for that. While I alone haven't seen much of the Dome, I am no stranger to braving the unknown. I will not slow us down. We've seen the havoc that Balagarmanda wreaked on Urkapacha. I wonder what this other Tural Vidral might have left in its wake. Well, I guess Alphino's our only healer. Well, no, Graha could be the healer.
I stand ever ready.
Let's get to it.
We have Wuklamat,
I won't let you down.
Trial,
Let's give it our all.
Alizé.
I won't let you down.
Always remembering the discussion of how Alphino is not a very good healer. So I'm taking Graha instead. This is the Cat Ear squad. Honorary member Kryl because of her hoodie. Dungeon time. Hopefully I remember enough about how to play the video game. It is kind of spooky. And very sparkly. Or sparky, or something. Very electricity. It's me who hasn't completed this duty. So a fun thing about Dawntrail AI that I don't know if I really talked about a lot. I mean, I guess we saw it a little bit, but like with Warrior especially, you can do larger pulls even with the AI, and it'll work out fairly well. My father must have come here for a reason. The lightning here hasn't let up either. Even the creatures here are electrified. There are beasts here too? There are indeed. Warrior is very good at not dying. Yeah. The extra, like, full art version of the Warrior's Gauge is, like, covered in thorns or chains or something. It was just a bit much. And, like, the gauge isn't... I don't particularly need a lot of detail on this gauge. All it is like, well, it's a number. The number is important. And also, like, whether or not you have the tank stance on. Some of the gauges, the details, like the extra details are visually helpful, but not so much for this one. bolts can strike anywhere. Step lightly. The weather is just umbral static, by the way. Forest axe beak. All axe beaks present in forests, known for their electricity.
Something special for you.
I've just noticed that there is a food that I have 0 of on a different part of my bar, which I did not process prior to just now. I think that's like eggplant something. That was a tank food at some point. Maybe Sucro cares more for eggplant than I do. I'm not personally a fan of it. I do think it's funny that like one of the current tank foods is like canonically one of Sucro's favorite foods. It's just vegetable soup. Yeah, this is baked eggplant. I'm not a fan of eggplant personally, but Sucro is allowed to have different... Oh, hey, Zagnol. This is a Final Fantasy IX reference right here. That one looks mean. Be careful. I guess we stepped into its territory. So, in Final Fantasy IX, the Zagnol is notable for being the quote-unquote boss fight of the Festival of the Hunt in Lindblum. So, you know, Lindblum here being, or Lindblum being part of the name, also appropriate. I don't know if it was electricity aspected before, but it was a boss fight where, because Zidane's ideal prize for winning the festival was just money, you generally wanted to get Zidane killed and then have Freya win the fight. Anyway. I was kind of hoping for the PvP music to suddenly kick in. I keep wasting Beast Gauge a little bit, but that's fine. Okay, so you ram into a corner. Infusing the rocks with ether. Okay. Tabor toss. That's not what that means. I don't think. Oh. Oh, okay. That's fun. That is what that means. It's just that's not what... Yeah. No dear. You're certainly doing a lot of different things right away.
Something special for you.
And also not particularly caring about aggro that much. Okay, now you're attacking the... Well, we definitely have to kill this. Right. Yep. Cool bespoke meter for this guy.
A caber is a roughly trimmed tree trunk used in the Scottish Highland sport of caber tossing. A crystalline spire is theoretically a caber, I suppose?
The main reason I thought that caber toss was inaccurate is because I thought it was referring to whatever attack was making the line AoEs, but that's not what it was labeling. I didn't realize that the Zagnol was in fact going to toss the crystal. Then I also forgot to move, but it was fine. Bit late on that. Hey, that was a cool fight. I like that one. So what's the eye level here? 705. Might actually be an improvement over some of my stuff. No, actually, never mind. Well, if there's accessories here, I do only have 690 bracelets. I believe the fashion here is good, though, if I remember correctly. So the facility is still here. Let's... Well, it's this cap. I believe this is another... I believe this is a recolor, but I'm not entirely certain. It also looks very silly on Sucro right now. This cap is not what I meant when I said that the fashion was good. What kind of research did they do here? A remote facility with a secret purpose. Hardly any signs that there was ever a village here. Ah, research notes. Research notes in an abandoned and like messed up facility with like notably messed up floors, scattered and toppled pieces of machines and whatnot. This is like a survival horror atmosphere suddenly. While His Majesty Zoralja is not the first to conceive of transferring a beast's soul into a person's body, safety and ethical concerns have ensured no earnest attempts have ever been made to date. Yet our king believes that there is no greater evil than to hinder the potential of man, and so he has ordered us to make this conception a reality. He would bolster our military might and break through into the outside world. If our research will further this ambition, then perhaps it is worth pursuing. You know what? This makes sense. These items are unique and not recolors? Okay. The hat looked similar to some other ones that exist. Ah. Naturally, as this is the survival horror portion where we are learning about the research that went into transferring beast souls into people for power-ups, we're going to be confronted with the failed experiments that still live and other such things. That makes sense.
Try this.
Extremely Harry Mason observation about the rotting dogs there. It's fun how this turned into like, yeah, like I said, this is extremely a survival horror type of atmosphere. Like, except for the music. Like, if the music had changed at this point, that would have been very dramatic. Our bodies are fragile vessels. Although the infusion of another person's soul confers strength and vitality, the soul of a beast yields mixed results. Even when stripped of memories, a feral soul can induce psychological instability in the subject. I suspect this is because primal instincts remain. And while a certain amount of bestial ferocity is expected, and I dare say welcomed, too many souls can lead to physical mutations. For now, our objective shall be to determine the threshold beyond which a body is at risk of uncontrolled mutation. How many dogs can we put into a guy before they become a murder dog instead of a guy? You know, this is a little bit reminiscent of some portions of Final Fantasy VII at this point. Whoop. Hey, rotten researchers. What do you know? Zombie time. I'm taking my time in observing the surroundings rather than doing larger pulls at this point. It's also a bit Resident Evil, but like, I suppose I'm comparing it to Final Fantasy VII on account of it being in a Final Fantasy game. Though I was also comparing it to survival horror a moment ago. Of course. Warrior really is a good way to have a chill time, at least in some situations. I am still worried about, like, the raid a little bit, but we'll get there when we get there, I suppose. Best not to worry about it right now, if nothing else. What was that sound? Oh, like there was a lockdown on the room, probably. So what do we have going on over here? Rows of various containment units, some of which are still present. People floating in tanks and whatnot. Ah, blood spatters. Or at least spatters of something. Didn't even really process those. Oh yeah, that is a cyber wheelchair. You're right. And like IV drip and stuff. At some point, there was dialogue of, ah, what are those? Those are people, right? They're moving, what happened here? Various shattered tanks and whatnot. Makes sense. Gulja having a time, probably. Ah, this is where you need the keycard to progress in a game that's not an MMO with dungeon design that is very corridor based. And this is where you could go to get like a materia or something over there, probably. Oh, hello. This is an example of someone who's had too many dogs put into their soul. They got that dog in them, derogatory. The Pictomancer noises are kind of strange to hear, like, without the full visual context of Pictomancy. You did lowered effects and whatnot. You know, that could be a Yakoi as well, you're right. That, one of those explanations may or may not make more sense. It's a little bit tough to tell, I suppose. That is true as well. I hadn't considered that. Alright, so yeah, definitively, most likely blood spatters based on the color. Dried blood. So we got handprints, a classic. A classic of Scary Zone atmosphere, the handprint. Handprints on a sealed door behind which a pristine corridor lies. Checks out. Various vials, bottles, whatnot on the floor. Shattered glass, or broken glass at least. The rate of transfiguration may be dictated by the potency of the soul consumed. We've experimented with fiends of great power, but mutations were observed after the infusion of merely a single soul. No better was this phenomenon illustrated than with poor Atticus. His body was altered irreparably, and he lost all capacity for rational thought. While the primary objective of this research was to utilize the soul of a Taral Vidral, I struggled to see a path forward. An alternative approach must be considered. Atticus is the S rank of this area. Fair enough. So, what sort of soul did Zeralja absorb in the fight against him again? Like, what sort of beast souls did he use? Seems like a particularly relevant question. I dropped my ominous red lighting on the ground. Just ordinary human souls, but like a lot of them, I think. Okay, yeah. Oh, you can actually duck into these cells. That's quote-unquote fun. Operating table sort of chair situation, monitoring devices, various technology. Can't duck into this side. Well. Okay, so none of the enemies here are like uttering words. They're all just groaning and moaning at me. So it's likely that they've lost that, which makes sense and is accurate to what we've seen so far. But I keep expecting them to like moan a word or like help me or whatever, just because of the atmosphere, you know? The giant course had an attack called Glass Punch there. I guess we can assume that they are responsible for breaking the glass, as they've devised a punch specifically for that purpose. Glass show. You can tell it's Glass Joe because they're wearing something over their head to protect their weak spot. It's Tidal Defense over here. Yeah, that looks pleasant, probably, over there. That's probably fine, whatever's happening in this room. Anyway, let's check out all of these. Anything different? More, what I guess I'll call operating rooms. Cells. It looks like these are like padded walls, too. So that's something. Okay, you can go into these two over here. But not much going on in them either. Well, this one, they dropped their ominous red lighting in here as well. I can tell you one thing, this isn't gonna be a dungeon that's great for taking screenshots in of my fashion. If the source of our failures thus far has been the inability of our bodies to contain feral souls, what if we were to reverse the process? By purging a beast of its memories and infusing it with a man's soul, one still possessed of its own memories, we stand to gain absolute control over a vessel of great power. My subordinate, who first proposed this brilliant hypothesis, shall have the honor of being the first to transcend our meager limits. I must prepare his soul for extraction at once. Great. Okay. I have a bad feeling about this. Overseer Kanaloka. We heard the name Kanaloka already. Ah. Tubes. The Tube Men. There's something unsettling about the ether in here. What happened to them? Hello. Are you able to speak? You surrender your souls to King Zoralja. A bit late for Dark Souls! Pointing at the screen. Video game name. Come forth, my dear souls. Calling a move Dark Souls is so funny. Oh, that was... Okay, it's really cool how these are like being painted on the ground. These AoEs. That's a really cool visual. Phantom Flood. Uh-huh. Classic, classic. Hands rising from place. Oh, this is not unlike some bosses in Stormblood in some ways. Like this particular, discard the flesh, extract the soul. Oh, well, I see. Oh, this is fun. Necrohazard is a great attack name also.
No holding back.
Bloodburst. Why not serve a greater purpose? The King of Resolve's purpose. Okay, we've got the plot ghosts from Final Fantasy VII Remaker here now, also. Yeah. I have the attack names set as really large in the Relinquish your souls for the glory of all Alexandria. I have the attack names like really large so I can read them properly. And maybe the person that you were watching previously did not see Dark Souls for that reason. Dark Souls is the tank buster. Yeah, maybe you didn't see it previously because my UI is arranged differently. Yeah, this does have a lot of FF7 Remake vibes in general. I think that's accurate. Would that we could tame the beast, but the seal is already... The seal? The beast? What was he talking about? Gloves of Healing. I don't expect the Gloves of Healing to be an amazing fashion choice or anything. Yeah, they're alright, they're alright. They are gloves. So far, this dungeon is very cool in terms of, like, atmosphere, and the boss fights are very fun, I think. Not particularly threatening on account of me being a warrior primarily, I would assume, but... Is that a storm? By the gods, what is that? Well, it seems to be a storm. Is that good? Great question. This also feels very Final Fantasy VII Remake to me. Like the ending of part 1 of that, well, remake specifically. Oh, what do we have going on over here? What is the floating rock? Sprightly mole. Well, at least the moles are doing all right. At least the moles are having a grand old time. Sprightly stone. Like the end of the first part of remake had a terrain in chaos moment, shall we say. Yeah, that's true too. This could be good for glamorous screenshots. I tend to default to the ether font these days for those myself, but this part, definitely cool. Also, you could use the previous parts for any Halloween glamours. We can't understate the importance of a spooky glamour from time to time. Though Sucro is not necessarily going to be doing that. There is a time and place, but not now. As a professor once said. I'm glad that the moles and the rocks are both doing great. Sprightly is a very positive adjective to assign to a creature, generally. And rocks are creatures, I guess. I think that's just like the model for some of the Spriggans, but without the Spriggan on it. Feebads and Lone Keeps. Yeah. Yeah, Ziggy Stardust is the specific one. That's who I was thinking. I don't think the Get Spooky goal is going to be met even with the extension. But I will remind everyone again that there were 0 plans for what would happen if it were met. And I think it even says as much. Sometimes you just do a bit, and there's nothing attached to the bit. It would have been a sensible thing to attach to a theoretical redesign. But I have to obtain the energy to make a redesign if I want to make one, so... I'm okay with my current form for the time being, I believe. Something's wrong, don't rush ahead. Well, now it's a little bit less interesting for like, what was that roar? Did it come from inside the storm? We may soon face our fiercest foe yet. I feel like with less rocks swirling about, it might be a little bit less good as a glamorous screenshot location, but, you know, I don't know the exact final state of the dungeon yet. Piety 11, wowie zowie. I'll pull both of these groups at least.
you.
Try this!
And what's this? Ah. Bnui.
Nui, savage.
True. Thank you for petting Calico. Has this thing been sealed away all this time? A Taral Vidral, no doubt about it. This creature, the energy, the specific energy of this creature is that if you go to a website where you can buy many objects run by a person with too much money, and you search for plushies or like plush toys, stuffed animals, whatever, and you search by most recent, you will see about 50 copies of a low quality toy of this creature because it appeared in a random horror thing that you've never heard of that is popular with a younger demographic than the one that you are in. That is the energy of this rabbit. This is a very specific comparison. I'm glad you see what I mean. Mascot horror creature is a much shorter way of putting that, I suppose. So you get mad in front of you first. Loaf? Okay. Careful, says Graha. Ah. You are... They're like giant earthworms. Weird attack. Okay. Cool, cool. Oh. Well, I didn't know that that AoE was going to remove the floor. And yeah, the fault line attack looked familiar. The AoE marker for removing the floor is exactly the same as an AoE marker for hitting the ground. That is my one complaint with this dungeon so far. Singular complaint. Not telegraphed that was not just a normal attack. The NPCs said it was going to be something weird. But that could have meant any. I did avoid it, but then I tried to charge through it because, you know, I thought it was a regular AoE, so. It's not even a very major complaint either, because you do restart immediately. I imagine that if you do this dungeon with other people who haven't done it before, they probably will also fall in the hole. That's a gotcha moment, a little bit. You have a surprising amount of time to dodge, like, around the fault lines, honestly. You don't need to worry too much about standing in the right place. I wasted a bunch of beast gauge.
This should do it.
Surprising amount of time for this too, in some cases. All right, here's the thing again. On the plus side about this attack, they did finally make an arena that wasn't a square. Or a circle, I guess. Though this does limit my effectiveness a fair amount. They have been increasing the number of weird arenas, so it's a little unfair to say finally, but they made another one that was a weird shape, I suppose is accurate. I used all my defense for some reason. I don't know why I did that, but that's fine. There's something funny about one of the weirdest shapes being a donut. Like, conceptually, it's a simple shape, but, like, mechanically, it is a fairly irregular shape. Interesting how I'm not part of that. It makes sense. Because there's not enough space for that,
Something
really.
special for you.
I got you now.
Oh yeah, there is an extra indicator for the circle with the I didn't even notice that or think about the directional stuff because I was just doing what I could. And now we jump down the hole and discover the evil secret or whatever. You know, it's this. Okay, you're not fully dead, first of all. Secondly, it's the circles in the eyes that really sell the mascot horror creature vibe now that I see you up close. And like the veins in the ears and stuff really add to that too. Hey, pants. Pants for me. They're hot pants for some reason. Not particularly good for fending, IMO, but they're probably that because of whatever the torso piece is, being like a robe or a coat or something. That's typically how it goes. Yeah, the chess piece is a full body coat, exactly. And yeah, I didn't even notice the extra indicator for non-directional, but it's good that it's there because you are right, half of that circle was extremely obscured. Mustn't have been easy to imprison such a creature. Tyrant of Tyrol. Something something. Say that again, Alphino? Alphino, I need you to repeat your line. Truly a fitting description. That was too close. Still breathing, if only faintly. I felt the earth shake from all the way from the cliff. Phew, we did it somehow. We sure did. Oh. We... I feel like this hole is more important than just a boss mechanic, but I guess we'll see if that's true. Hello! Welcome Karma with the raid. Hello everyone. This is spoilers for Final Fantasy XIV 7.1 main story if you're not caught up. So be careful. Look away. Okay, you dropped the spoiler warning as well. Fair enough. I don't know if you're caught up or not. But hello, welcome. Thanks for the raid. I hope your stream went well as well. I don't remember what you were doing. I did see you were streaming in a sidebar somewhere. We just defeated him. Ah, right, Ape Escape. Hope that was fun. I hope the apes are in captivity and the galaxy is at peace. Right, there's like a command or something for a shout out, right? Not that like there are many people here who weren't from the raid, but I might as well learn the command while I'm at it. Karma's cool. You should go follow her if you would like to and you're not already. But I strongly suspect that most of you already are. Anyway, we defeated a mascot horror creature, the likes of which are flooding the Amazon.com stuffed toys category with cheap knockoffs of their likeness. Anyway, some sort of Tyrol Vidral that was imprisoned.
From what I could tell, they sought to transfer people's souls and memories into bestial vessels at that facility.
Seems true.
The Tyrol Vidral explains the need for a remote location. It was doubtless their prime subject. Though I expect Zoralja did not foresee the opportunities it presented when he imprisoned the creature.
It'd be really funny if this rabbit started talking to us. You gonna poke it, Sucro? Oh, you're gonna look at it. That makes sense.
And so, in order to prevent the breakdown of the individual, I instead seek to transfer their soul into the body of the beast.
You're the second boss fight. Hello.
This would allow one to wield the power of a Tyrol Vidral.
In theory, our initial experiments will involve lesser creatures, but in time, I am confident we will be able to bring even the mightiest
under our control. And what becomes of those who offer their souls? As they won't be able to return to their original forms, we must consider them lost. But the sacrifice will be worthwhile, for the army you stand to gain will far surpass any composed of mechanical soldiers. Very well. Recruit volunteers and begin at once. Thank you, Your Majesty. I shall return to the observatory and see to the necessary preparations.
Oh, that's convenient. We just so happened to see the person we're trying to learn about
You've given him permission.
in this vision.
Teishalja, you will assist Kaniloka. As one of the Landsguard's finest chirurgeons, your knowledge may be of use in his experiments. You will also watch him closely. In what you learn, you will report to me. You object to his project? Or are you incapable of performing this duty?
No, Your Majesty. Whether we shelter within the dome or expand beyond it, we require great power. But with no one to rely upon, we must take that power for ourselves, even if the means are questionable. I will do as you command. But if Kaniloka's work bears fruit, I wish to beg a boon.
What do you desire?
Something that I had accepted I would never have in Tuliyollal. That I believed would forever be beyond me. That it was foolish to covet. But here and now, it is close. So very, very close.
Perform your duty to my satisfaction, and anything you desire is yours.
Yeah, that's
That which I seek does not lie within this dome. Here, I cannot prove the miracle. But if what you seek is at hand, then you may claim it, for it has no value to me.
Are you alright?
yeah, I just had a very convenient vision.
Teishalja. Could she be my mother?
Like the people in the outskirts said, few Mamulja lived in the Yasulani. I can't imagine many other Upiko women were trapped in the dome. That being the case, she could well be the one.
This observatory Kaniloka returned to, could it not be part of the research facility? We might learn something about Teishalja there.
That's where we're going next then.
Not. Time for the classic of go back into the dungeon and look around. Story mode. I think. Yes, that's correct. Electrostatic dust. I don't remember that weather condition. Now that the danger is behind us, it started sinking in just how unsettling this place is. Hard to believe it used to be a village. You should be able to peer into the Taral Vidral's past. I wonder what that implies for the beast's consciousness while it was sealed away. It seems that this Kaniloka was in charge here. From your recounting, he was quite dedicated to Zeralja. You know, I guess, like, all Echo Visions are pretty much convenient for the plot. I'm only making fun a little bit and not, like, criticizing necessarily. But I guess that is true of most of them. The villagers were likely monitoring the imprisoned Taral Vidral at Zeralja's behest. At some point, they became involved in their research of souls. Hisholja, you said her name was? I wonder what her story is. I wish I could see into the past like you, then I could see people who are gone. Because there aren't any other Mamulja women here, for a long time I couldn't even imagine what my mother looked like. When I visited Tuliolo and saw some, I was finally able to picture her in my mind. And one day I hope I can see what she actually looked like as well. And I guess we're gonna explore the place. Fair enough. Among the abandoned. While we've discerned the purpose of the research conducted here, the traces of it that remain might afford us greater insight into what came of it. Let us take a look around, for information as well as a way to the upper level. Alright. Are we allowed to... No. It's marked off. Natural instinct to immediately go in the opposite direction of the objective. Still a thing. Oh. I don't believe the bodies were in these rooms before. Well, they might have been, but they might have been the enemies that we fought. But now they're back. Put all the bodies back in place post-dungeon, I guess. Pretty sure those are the enemies that we fought. What happened to the people here? Did they all leave, or did we already meet them? Probably the second one. To think that people actually volunteered their souls for these experiments. Success was far from guaranteed, and even in the best case, they would cease to be men. Was their devotion to Zeralja so absolute? I feel like there's probably some degree of coercion in there. It won't open, and I don't think it'll yield to our shoulders either. We'll have to do it the old-fashioned way and find the key. We do actually have to find the key card for this door. I was joking about it. That's funny. A lift can be seen behind the wrought iron gate. As sturdy as it appears, the gate will likely resist attempts to force it open. The security panel is nearby. Perhaps a verification key will open the way. I wonder what Beck Luke would make of this research into transferring souls. Good point. Good question. Okay, we still can't, like... We can break physics a little bit there, but not too much. The researchers likely moved between the upper and lower levels. Perhaps we can find a key among their belongings. Makes me angry to think about what they did here. Test subject's journal. This is new. They're recruiting volunteers for a new experiment. I know I'm not as bright as the others, but they wouldn't laugh at me if I was stronger than them. This might be my chance. Soul transferred few days ago. I can write. Can write good, yes? I am good. Very good. Getting hard to control strength. Today bit off hand of feeder. Cannot help it so strong. Hungry. Always hungry. Cannot control eat. I must eat. Am eater must eat. Oh no, it's the Bethesda Madness Journal. Finally added to Final Fantasy XIV. A classic of video games. Is the last page eat, 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 eat? No, there isn't one. You find nothing that resembles a verification key. Perhaps you should search elsewhere. I don't know if there's like a more common term for that general thing, but I will always think of it as the Bethesda Madness Journal because like every Elder Scrolls game has at least one, if not more. Like, there's definitely some in Skyrim. I think there's some in Oblivion. There's probably some Doomsday Diary. Well, I feel like that there's a difference between that and this, right? Like a Doomsday Diary, at least the name could be anything. It could be just like, that's more of the diary where the last entry gets cut off mid-sentence or mid-word. And instead of the diary where the last entry is like devolving into almost into the same word repeatedly. Itchy Tasty is, I guess, also an example, though I don't actually know the source of that. I've heard that too, but I don't know the details. I just associate it with Bethesda because I think it's in like Oblivion, Skyrim, probably Fallout 3 and 4, definitely Elder Scrolls Online. Oh, that's from Resident Evil 2. Okay. It's a Bethesda trope in my mind. Supplies for the staff are neatly arranged within the cabinet. Among the various items is a manual outlining regulations and tranquilizing gas to be used in emergencies. You dig deeper and find a verification key. Perhaps it can be used to open the Iron Gate. It's something the chief of police was saying, you mean, I assume? Like that's what it turned into? You know, now that the more I hadn't really stopped to consider it, but the idea of like, I understand that the audio, or the, not audio, the diary is there to like convey the descent into madness and whatever. But I wonder how reasonable it is for someone who has descended into madness to like pick up their journal, pick up a writing implement and just write blood 15 times or whatever. Like that's a very silly mental image if you actually stop and think about it, which I hadn't really done before. I was too busy thinking it was silly in general without thinking of that specific angle. It could have been dictation, that's true. You found the key? Great, I'll call the others. It seems the key can be used to operate the lift as well. Up we go. This is fun. So like part of the dungeon that was modeled is actually used and not just like a background element. I expected something relatively more horrifying than computer room, but This makes sense, logically. So this is the observatory. I didn't expect it to be similar, but this is a far cry from the temple that held Velagarmanda. All the machinery appears to still be in operation. I expect there are auxiliary systems in place to ensure that monitoring can continue even in emergencies. The warnings indicate various anomalies related to the seal's failure, most likely. For a blessing, we managed to fell the beast before it could cause harm. Right then, let's see if we can find some clues about Galulja's mother. I think I can use this terminal. Shale taught me how. There's so much data. I don't know what we should look at. Perhaps we can narrow down the search by inputting the name Tashil Ja. Control F. Ah, it brought up a lot of results. They all seem to say the same thing. Tashil, Administrator of Experimental Treatments, Research Logs. This sounds good, doesn't it? In a sense. Chances are the data is encrypted, and even if not, it will take considerable time to go through it all. Maybe like a patch or two. And let us take it with us to the back room and have Shale analyze it. Agreed. Simply take the data. Alright, I'll transfer it to the storage device I brought. Okay, fair enough. I didn't know we were prepared for this. There, it's finished. Thank you so much for bringing me all the way here, everyone. If you're happy, then so am I. Besides, I was able to learn more about my brother as well. It was a fruitful adventure for the both of us. Every time the camera pulls back, I expect something terrible to happen still. I don't know where this instinct is from. We don't get to wander the computer room? Fair enough. I admit the Tural Vidral gave me a fright at first, but then I remembered who felled the mighty Valagarmanda. I'll not soon forget our visit to that facility. It was a troubling reminder of the depravity that can arise from the belief that souls are simply a resource to be exploited. And yeah, that's true. We weren't downloading the entire archive or anything. Caluso's really good at driving the hover cargo. I wonder if I can learn how to drive it too. Maybe when you're old enough to, like, drive. Do we have the concept of a driver's license in this land? I guess you have to get a license to ride your chocobo, or own a chocobo, so in a sense, yes. Also, this is a different land from that one. Galulja, don't drive a hover barge or whatever when you're 10 years old. I'm glad we could find what we sought in that abandoned facility. It seems safe to say my brother returned to Yuwayawata for the Tural Vidral. He wanted its power no matter the cost. Yeah, they probably do have a DMV. I mean, they have a bureaucracy with long lines, so it would fit in. And here we are. The authorities will doubtless wish to be informed about the facility and its contents. First things first, let us deliver the data to Shale. Alright, so are we going to look at all this data now, or is this going to be the it will take me a patch to process this information moment? This feels like it'll take me a patch to process this information to me, but at the same time, I guess we haven't really done that much yet. I thought that dungeon was really cool. That's my final statement on that dungeon. The one thing that was a little bit weird is that one AoE that the final boss of it did looked like a regular AoE, and I wasn't able to process that there wasn't floor anymore. But that ultimately didn't cause that much of a problem, because it's like you see it once, you get the idea. You found information on Galulja's mother. You lot never cease to amaze. From what I can see, things haven't changed much since the funeral. People are still listless like before. I've been thinking it may behoove us to learn how to use the various devices found throughout Alexandria. Better late than never, after all. Time for patch 7.2. Everyone takes a computer science course. The data will be in good hands with Shale. It was Shale who gave me the storage device before we left. She said that we'd probably need it, and we did. Makes sense. Galulja had no trouble keeping up during the outing. He really is his father's son. Having now spent some time in these harsh environs, I feel I have a better understanding of how much of a steadying presence Fiend was to her people. I have an image related to using a computer. One of the various Sucrose shitposts from forever ago. I have so many of these. But I imagine that if Sucro has to learn how to use a computer, it'll probably be like this, I think. Still a good image. I feel like if I didn't have the Sucro facts thing, I would just have like a rotating gallery of all the Sucro shitpost meme whatevers I've done forever. There's a lot of them. Sucro is an inspiring individual, I guess. She's very important. Yeah, she would announce that. I mean, she does announce that. I think she would say hacker voice out loud as well. Welcome back. Galulja has already given me the storage device. It looks to be a wealth of data, all of which is encrypted, so I'll need time to process everything. In that case, Alize and I might take ourselves around the city and check on the people. Aye, their mood has us a bit worried. I don't know if there's anything we can do to help, but we'll see. Understood. I'll let you know as soon as I've finished my work. Thank you. We'll see you again soon. I met some members of Oblivion on my way back here. They themselves were returning after having paid their respects to Sphene. I suspect the Alexandrians' plight reminds Alphino and Alize of the Garleans. Little wonder they feel compelled to assist in any way they can. Also, I think when Sucro says hacker voice, I'm a cat, she says it in her normal voice. I don't think she has a hacker voice. Or maybe she just becomes a little bit more gravelly. I don't know. I share our friend's concern. It's not surprising that the Alexandrians are having difficulty coping with their grief, but still. I'll stay here with Shale. There's a lot I can learn just from watching her. Decrypting files isn't the hard part. It's when the number of digits in a password is unknown that the long nights begin. I can't believe the next class that they're going to add in 8.0 is the hacker. You'll hack enemies' HP bars to be 0. What's the class in Mass Effect that's like primarily based on the hacking stuff? Is it just like engineer or something? I can't even remember the correct names for the different Mass Effect quote-unquote spell schools, as it were. They're just like purple and orange to me. What's the one that's like 100% orange and not a hybrid? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Because like Vanguard is purple plus combat, for example. Orange is the other thing. No, Soldier is full combat. Soldier is, yeah, red, I guess, would be the combat color. Your orange is engineer. That's what I thought. I guess we already have machinist, so we can't really have engineer. Maybe machinist will just get the ability to hack people. And another bit of raid utility or whatever. Guidance of the Hetzer. Alizé isn't wrong. The mood out there is still grim. Some of the Turali remember a time before they were dependent on the Sol system. But even they're unsettled and wondering aloud if they'll have the chance to reunite with old friends and family before they pass on. With good reason, too. The journey home won't be an easy one for those who've grown old. That's why it's mostly been younger folk who've been leaving for Tural, ones with no elders to care for. Word of the problem has reached us in Tuliolo. My brother is doing all he can to see Jacques Tural. I guess I was saying that as Jacques Tural and not Zach Tural at some point. Jacques Tural Railroad restored to operation so that people may come and go more freely. Unfortunately, the tracks only go as far as Vanguard, so some traveling by foot will still be necessary. Even so, the railroad would make things a sight easier. How long before it's back in service? I couldn't say. When I left for this visit, Kona seemed reluctant to make promises. But while Shale's working on the data, we could go and see the state of it for ourselves. Nod. The Shaloni Station, then. I'll make sure to keep Kona informed. Let us know if there's good news concerning the railroad. We can disseminate it through our network and hopefully put some minds at ease. Raha and I will keep an eye on things here in your absence. I would be astonished if they were able to restore railroad service so quickly. The locomotive was nigh obliterated in its collision with the dome. Say hello to Kona for me. You'll have plenty of time while I work on this, trust me. As I play through this patch, it's all coming back to me, how much incidental dialogue there is. It's a lot of reading to do, and also it's a lot of stuff you can very easily miss. Or intentionally miss. But the good news is that I get a banana smoothie at the end of it. Or Jello. Or money. Smoothie, Jello, or money would be basically the worst game show idea ever conceived. Probably. Can't see that getting renewed for a second season. I filled Kona in. He asked that we continue to support the Alexandrians as best we can. Operations are still suspended, but we're trying to remain optimistic. It's good to see you looking well yourselves. Right, the challenge of distinguishing the accents of these people from Sucro's accent. Thou resolve, and Sucro funk to boot. What can I do you for? We're hoping for some good news about the railroad. There's an increasing number of people looking to return to Tural that can't make the journey on foot. I see. As it happens, the Vow of Reason is also on his way here to take stock of the situation. Ah, scratch the on his way. Also convenient. Oh, and Aaronville's here too. And he's got a new shirt. Shoutouts to Aaronville. Looking good, Aaronville, or gasp, did our little Bun Bun finally outgrow his old clothes? Dialogue options you can choose if you want Aaronville to hate you for the rest of time. Wow, nice shirt. Cool new outfit. As the guild ship has officially approved my transition from gleaner to independent contractor, I was in need of more befitting attire. Yeah, that too. I feel like that would not be an appropriate response. Like, in any circumstance. But like, especially not in this one. I don't think I expected Aaronville to show up, honestly. Honestly, I forgot to consider Aaronville as being part of the plot for some reason. Like, I guess he wasn't around, so I wasn't thinking about him, is all I mean. Yeah, I was thinking something like that as soon as I saw it, too. You're here about the railroad, too? It was in part for my sake that the original Dawnblazer was sacrificed, so I felt it only right that I assist with its replacement. Speaking of which, I assume La Machia has explained the growing urgency of the need. What have you to report? Nod. The new locomotive was on track for completion, but we're having difficulty pulling her into the station, in a manner of speaking. You see, when we used the Dawnblazer to get into the dome, urgency outweighed all other considerations. But now we're back to our original problem, how to run the railroad without upsetting the inhabitants of Mawato... what was this again? Mawahetson. I think I was reading that as Mewatosin by mistake. In the playthrough of 0.0, maybe. Mewahetson. That is the Ronique, though the Hetzoro that follow them are none too pleased about the Hetzo being spooked by the noise of the locomotive either. Yeah, melatonin, exactly. The solution I've devised to quieten the railroad should address that complaint. I put a silencer on the train, but a silent train presents a different danger. The Ronique will need to be deterred from wandering across the tracks. And I suppose we can't just blow the whistle at them, or they'll panic and be put off their grazing again. Weren't the railroads plotted to avoid the Ronique's preferred grazing areas, though? It's odd that they're getting so close in the first place. The Ronique's grazing patterns have shifted since the tracks were laid. I'm not certain why, but I intend to ask the people of Mewahetson for their insight. As a major proponent of the railroad, I have a duty to assist in this matter, and I too would hear what the Hetzoro have to say about it. They are the ones most affected, after all. Nod. I believe it would be best to begin by consulting their leader, Huato. The rest of you can accompany us to the Hetzoro encampment if you like. Oh, he had a little keychain. Hey! He had a little keychain of the robot body that his mom was using on his backpack. I saw that. I forgot about the target dummy, or like target shooting, target range target, whatever. Some of those words in some sequence. I forgot about this song too, I think. Can we like... I guess it's probably a bit too late to do this now, but... if we could elevate some portion of the railroad tracks, I feel like that would solve some of the problem. But I guess that would be a lot of engineering. Also just like inventing a railroad crossing. Probably a starting point. I don't think I noticed this before. The instrument this guy's playing. That's fun. Trains hate going up or down hills. I guess that's true. I'm not a train expert either. But there's a little keychain. Good. Our prior visit to the Hetzar was also on railroad business. Pray they do not take us for train enthusiasts. I missed you, Erenville. I don't know how I managed to forget about you, and like, forget about expecting you to appear in this segment of the plot. Good character, Erenville. As committed as the Hetzar are to tradition, they are amenable to the unfamiliar, or so I am told. To think all of this can be packed up at a moment's notice to follow wherever the Ronique lead. The Warrior of Light does get a backpack like that. Though. It doesn't have anything extra on it, but it is there. Ah, fair enough. What, you mean like a little harsher font shield? Specifically? That would be a heck of a thing to put on your backpack, I think. I forgot there was someone named Geppetto. Now I'm just going to think about Zephetto from Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis, the out-of-nowhere puppet master man. A little axe for Ardbert would also be good. Introducing customizable keychains for your backpack. Jumping around arbitrarily, because I'm trying to remember what I was going to say. Yeah. I streamed enough of the PSO2 NGS stuff to fight Zephetto. His whole deal was like in that game, like people are being attacked by the dolls. Like the enemies are literally called dolls, and he's literally a name that sounds very similar to Geppetto. And he made them as a way to like allegedly prepare arcs for the invasion of the Starless, which is basically the ultimate difficulty version of the dolls, or something like that. Phantasy Star Online 2 NGS is a game that isn't particularly good, in my opinion, at this point. But that's for some other time, or never. I mean, what I was going to say is that it has nothing to... It's not Erenville's fault or the game's fault in any way that I forgot to consider he would appear. I just tend to be forgetful. I feel like I must apologize to Erenville, and Erenville fans everywhere. That's Kona, Vow of Reason, is it not? I can scarce believe it. Vow of Resolve, Vow of Reason. I bid you welcome to our camp, but what brings you all the way to Mewahetsu? I thank you for seeing this. Our visit concerns the matter of the Jactural Railroad. I suppose I am also apologizing to myself by apologizing to all Erinville fans. For whatever that's worth. You too have noted the Ronique's unexpected change in behavior then. My son Shepetto has been looking into this matter. Shepetto? Nod. Normally we'd expect the Ronique to keep their favorite grounds nearby for a while yet. And despite a thorough search, we haven't found anything wrong with the quantity or quality of the grazing in Pyarayonan and Yatanane. Pyarayonan and Yatanane, I think. Yet they refuse to keep to where they usually would, instead pushing westward towards your railroad. I certainly see no cause for this unseasonal migration. Nevertheless, should they continue to move west, we will follow. As any true Hetsuro would, I suppose. As you may have surmised, I am of Hetsuro descent. My parents traveled with the Ronique as well, though I myself have no memory of the experience. I was left behind as a babe, you see, during such a migration. One of many sacrifices necessitated by a nomadic lifestyle I am forced to assume. A chance encounter with the kind Pelu merchant was the only reason I survived. Taking pity on me, he taught me his trade that I might fend for myself. I became a stallkeeper in Tuliolo's markets. That is where the Dawn servant found and adopted me. Right, that part. I'd already been in the palace some time when Lama Chi came to join us. Like me, she'd been cast aside by her parents. I knew the pain of solitude and wanted to spare her that suffering. As this tiny child's new brother, I swore I would always be there for. That's flashback Kona talking, not Kona right now. I wasn't thinking about this plot point either. I forget a lot of things. Truly, I've never heard of the Ronique choosing a path so arduous as to force such a terrible decision. Oh, wrong person actually. I was doing the Shepetto voice. Nor of any Hetsuro willingly leaving their own flesh and blood behind. There must have been some exceptional circumstance. I cannot say. The idea of following in their footsteps that I might better make excuses for their actions never much appealed to me. Yeah, he probably did basically exactly that thing. Even if they had a good reason, wouldn't you want to know? Or even if it might help you better understand the Ronique's current behavior. What if this was all connected? I feel like there's probably a connection there. As is so often the case, you are correct. Though my discomfort with the Hetsuro way may arise from fear of reopening old wounds rather than blind fervor for innovation, it would nevertheless see me repeat past mistakes. And to refuse to learn one of our country's treasured traditions would make me a poor Dawn servant indeed. Please, teach me of the Ronique and what they mean to you. I promise to listen with an open mind. We would be delighted. In the meantime, your companions are welcome to look around. That is kind of funny. Well, he didn't specialize purely in guns. He just uses one to fight, I guess. Will you learn of Hetsuro culture with me? I should like to approach this with the fervent curiosity that you and my sister share. But it would be useful to know whether I am, doing it correctly. Nod. Then it's settled. You'll learn more of the Ronique, and we'll have a look around the plains. And perhaps in the process, we'll find the answers we seek. Nod. Nod. I find myself wondering what would happen if you had picked that one option when talking to Erinville that had zero decorum. I feel like if I were the writer or game creator, I would just have his response to that be to like stare directly at you for 5 to 10 seconds without saying a single word and then continue as if you hadn't spoken. My knowledge of the culture I was born into is from written accounts alone, few of them at that. It will be a joy to share our traditions with the new Dawn servants, as we once did with Gulul Jaja. The quickest way to learn about our way of life is to do as we do. I hope you're not above manual labor. I am not the most experienced, I'm ashamed to admit, but I shall put forth every effort. That's all we ask. Take these tools. Now introduce yourself to anyone who looks busy and ask if you can help. They'll be happy to teach you what to do in exchange for another pair of hands to do it. Nod. Let us meet back here later to share what we've learned. I think it's funny how drastically the tone of this patch alone has shifted. This is not a bad thing, but it is kind of funny. We've gone from like survival horror laboratory to learn why the animals are migrating weird. This won't do. The wind will go right through it. And me without my needle and sinew. Hello, I'm here to help. Oh, these are precisely what I needed. I should be able to patch up the covering now. Given how often we pack up and reassemble our tents, they're bound to get the occasional tear. Fortunately, the Ronique hide they're made out of is durable enough that we generally needn't worry. Yeah, death, horror, and oxen. It's also fun how this segment here is very similar to stuff that happened during the 7.0 main story. So it seems that like going forward into 7.x, we will still be taking time to learn about culture, which is good. Ronique hide's sturdiness makes it an excellent material for clothing and shoes as well. Of all the many gifts our Hetso bestow, it's the most versatile. I don't know how we'd get along without it. I don't know if Sucro actually helped or just handed over the thing. Creature. Look directly into the eyes of the creature. As with many animals, they're especially funny when looking at them directly forward. Front-facing animal, always good. And yeah, that's true. I didn't know a lot of people were complaining about that, but that makes sense. I'm afraid I've finished with my tasks for the time being, but since you're so eager to learn about our way of life, why don't I tell you a bit about our migration customs? If you're here, you likely already know that the Ronique are our Hetso, our guides, that we travel with through the turning of the seasons. We trust them to lead us to fertile lands with all we need to survive. But you may not know that sometimes the herd splits into two, bound for different paths. On these occasions, we Hetsuro must also part with half of our number. You may think it a strange and stressful custom, but over the years it has seen us visit new lands and broaden our horizons as a people. This too is the wisdom of the Hetso. That's neat. One more tidbit for you. When the herd splits and we part with our kin, we exchange a wish to meet again wheresoever we are guided. Sepia Ashiz Ahetsuro Nehion. That's like the most we've seen of the language here in one text box. So that's also neat to see. You're learning about the Hetsuro way of life, are you? I may have a thing or two to share, but rather than talking your ear off, let me test your powers of deduction. I find answers much easier to recall later if I arrived at them myself. Ahem. Our Hetso provide us with something that we use in medicines, poultices, and soap to drive away pests and sustain our fires. What is it? Bones? Hooves? Are hooves bones? Is it dung again? Meat and organ? Meat! Sucro, please, you should know this more. What was the question? Immediately forgetting it. Something you use in medicines, poultices, and soap. Well, I think that would be the bones or hooves. Actually. Both horns and hooves have cores of bone, and we use all of these materials, albeit primarily in temples, instruments, and the likes. It's not quite the answer I was looking for. Aha, the joke's on you. By answering wrong, I learn more. To remind you, this material is fit for medicines, poultices, and soap, to drive away pests and other evils, to sustain fires, and to flavor food. Have another guess. Is it the meat, if it flavors the food? Alas, not quite. Meat and organs both can be made into delicious fare, and our neighbors are oft glad to trade for them. They do have certain medical uses as well, but they aren't fit for all the purposes mentioned in my question. Is it dung again? Sounds like there's a story there, but that is indeed the correct answer. We've discovered myriad uses for Ronique chips over time, each a boon to our way of life. Where there's a need, our Hetso always provide. I know city folk are squeamish about dung, but you can't deny generations of results. I won't ask that you march across the plains and fill a sack with it, only that you keep an open mind about our customs. I don't remember what the again is referring to necessarily. Something on this step, maybe? Did we have to collect dung on this step at some point? Sort of a gag across the entire game, fair enough. You're here to help? Well then, why don't I show you how to care for a Ronique's coat? Go ahead and run your fingers through it, gently now. As you stroke the Ronique's coat, you note that many portions are shaggy and tangled. This one's fur is a bit overgrown, but a good brushing should thin it out. Would you like to give it a try? You'll need the right tool for the job, mind you. A comb of the type you're used to will just get lost in the tangle, like as not. Ah, Geppetto sent a Ronique brush with you, did he? I'll like him. Now just run it through one little patch at a time, gently. You dutifully brush the Ronique until your arms grow weary from the prolonged battle with its coat. It appears much tidier now, though the same cannot be said for your clothes, which have acquired a new coat of their own. Well done! With less excess fur, our friend here will be more comfortable in the afternoon heat, and less susceptible to illness. A combed coat also makes it easier for us to identify injuries should the need arise. You should come back during shedding season. It's a sight to behold, but thanks to the Hetso's prodigious coats, we never want for clothing and blankets. After admiring your work, you try and fail to brush the fur off of yourself, the Ronique preens. It's fine, I have a solution for this. It's fine now. Something about Dungeons and Dragons. This might seem a little out of nowhere. But I often think about the spell Prestidigitation and how one of its uses is listed as like cleaning or soiling if you wish to for whatever reason. Like a surface or an object or whatever, as long as it's within a certain size. So like if you have prestidigitation, you can just magic your clothes clean all the time, right? But, rules as written, you don't count, and you can't just magic yourself clean. So I often think about, if a wizard had prestidigitation, would they simply, like, with all of their clothes on, with the only clothes that they ever need, simply, like, walk into a river and submerge themselves underwater, and then walk out and magic their clothes dry? Is that the wizard shower? Is that how it works? I don't know about the phrase wizard shower, but this feels like a wizard's technique. That would be a good way to use prestidigitation, yeah. Though you can't exactly cast a spell stealthily in a lot of circumstances in the rules, because it does have like a somatic component to it. Or a verbal component or whatever. I guess you can whisper the spell, but I guess if I were yeah, you could also be Arcane Trickster. If I were the game master, I suppose I would have you roll stealth for whispering a spell and using it sneakily. Probably. Though I have not run a game as a game master. You smell of the grass and the wind. Which is a good thing, I promise. You could nearly be mistaken for one of us. You even look the part. Not really. I don't really look that similar. I am a cat, though. I have to wonder how Valcona is getting on. I assumed he would be reluctant to get his hands dirty, but it seems his wish to understand us was sincere. I guess I just have to imagine the fur covering Sucro right now from the brushing. The fur which neatly lines up in exactly the patterns of the coats these two are wearing, somehow. Nod. They compare you to a Ronique instead if you're not a cat. I was also wondering if it was the being a cat thing. That's fun. Ah, there he is now. And he has a friend. Apologies for my tardiness. I was tasked with grazing the Ronique and ended up rather far afield. I found myself wandering hither and thither at my companion's inclination. To force us back to the trail seemed inappropriate. But how was your own work? Have you anything to share? Hetzero life revolves around the Ronique, but in turn the people receive all they need. The Ronique are treasured members of this community, as important as family. Both of these are true. But the one that's relatively more relevant to our current situation is the first answer, I think. We have visited Viera culture a little bit, but like not much, and it was also one that is separate from the player character Viera culture. And there's a little bit of detail about like Viera culture on the source from some of the side quests and stuff, like in the in Wachimeki Meki, some of the I think the Gathering quest line. But yeah. Which you've done, I believe. So there's a little bit, but not a ton yet. Nod. Yes, I feel the truth of this myself. While I was hesitant to leave my fate to the whims of the Hetzo rather than tread man-made paths, I arrived where I was meant to be all the same. Mine is not the only way, though at times I lack the experience to know otherwise. My inability to conceive of how a decision might be right does not mean that it is wrong. My parents had a duty to the Ronique, as they did to me, so I wonder if their leaving me behind was not so selfish an act as I once believed. I have no way to know, of course, and regardless, this has no bearing on our present concerns. We are here in service of the people of Tyrol, after all. Nevertheless, I thank you for helping me find deeper meaning in what we've done today. And I will endeavor to remain curious, especially where the Hetzo are concerned. Hooray. I'm glad to hear that, Valcona. You're welcome among our herd anytime. And here's a banana smoothie for Sucro. It materialized in thin air in front of her. 2 of them. Hooray! Sucro get a treat. There's probably not too much of the patch left, right? Like, we're not at the title drop quest yet. But it has been a bit. And I am not quite used to streaming again. Wait a minute. That's the Dawntrail theme. You're playing the Dawntrail theme on your instrument. It's the da 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 part. I love it. Great Easter egg. But yeah, I feel like this will be a bit of a shorter stream. Probably. We can continue the main story next time. Yeah. I've heard the Pandemonium epilogue is kind of short. But like, I think I've already overshot the time estimate I was given for the main story here. A little bit. So either I generally go slower or no shade to Aya. Sometimes you tend to undershoot the amount of time that I will take. Time is difficult. I don't blame you for it at all. I think I might... The one complication of this for me is that I'll have to name the video a quest name that isn't just the patch title. Because that's how I name them. But that's not really a huge ask. But anyway, thank you for watching. This has been Final Fantasy XIV Dawntrail. Apparently Sucro just goes over here to stare at the camera. That's just where she goes to do that. But yeah, we got a decent way through the main story quest added to this patch. Probably. Oop, not close enough to the bed. That feeling when you fall asleep a foot away from the bed because you put in the emote wrong. But yeah, we got a decent bit of the way through. And next time we'll see the rest of the main story and that epilogue and maybe something else, I don't know. Depends. Depends on how I'm feeling then. But I need to take it easy because it's been a rough couple of weeks. And I'm not used to streaming. Short streams are okay. And maybe even preferable in some ways. All that said, thank you all for watching. Thank you again to Karma for the raid. I hope anyone who stuck around to watch enjoyed it. had at least a mildly okay time. And I don't have much of a set schedule. I just sort of stream when I can. I aim at Monday, Wednesday, Friday more often than other days, but circumstances do not always permit me to stream reliably. But if you would like, you may follow and be alerted to a stream happening. But of course, that is not necessary. All that being said, again, one final thank you all for watching, because I forget how to wrap up a stream sometimes. And I hope to see you all at the next one, whatever and whenever that may be. I've got a bunch of other things to do as well. Still more Pokemon Ultra Sun randomized. Still more Warframe. They just added a bunch more to Warframe and I'm not even caught up yet. Those are things I might do. Might also stream something entirely different. I don't know. I don't have schedules or plans most of the time. But yeah, good night everyone, and thanks for stopping by. Cool Bunkle facts. Don't forget those.